You're getting your ass kicked by life. And you know it. Not in some dramatic, movie-worthy way. Just the slow, grinding daily reality where you wake up already stressed about work, spend the day reacting to everyone else's demands, scroll mindlessly at night to numb out, then lie awake wondering why you feel so unfulfilled. You're not in control. You're being controlled by your job, by other people's expectations, by your phone, by circumstances, by your own anxiety and emotional reactions. And the worst part, you know you're capable of more, you can feel it, but you don't know how to break the cycle. Here's the truth, you're not alone. Most guys in their 20s and 30s are living in reactive mode, bouncing between stress and distraction, never actually taking control of their lives. But there's a different way. A philosophy that was literally designed for this, for maintaining internal control when external circumstances are chaotic, unfair, and beyond your power to change. 2,000 years ago, the Stoics figured out a system for mastering yourself even when you can't master your circumstances. These weren't monks hiding in caves. They were emperors running empires, warriors fighting battles, statesmen navigating deadly politics. Marcus Aurelius governed Rome while dealing with plague, war, and betrayal. Epictetus was enslaved and physically abused before becoming one of history's most influential teachers. Seneca navigated the insanity of imperial Roman politics. They all faced circumstances they couldn't control, but they mastered themselves, and that made all the difference. Today, I'm breaking down 13 specific lessons from Stoic philosophy that will help you take back control, not of your circumstances, but of yourself. Your reactions, your mind, your choices, your life. These aren't theoretical concepts. They're practical tools you can use starting today to stop being tossed around by life and start steering your own course. If you're ready to stop being reactive and start being in control, drop a comment with your biggest challenge right now. And subscribe to Strength Within because we're building a community of men who refuse to be victims of their circumstances. Let's get into it. Lesson 1. Develop brutal self-awareness. You can't fix what you don't see. And most guys are completely blind to their own patterns. They react the same way to the same triggers over and over, never realizing they have a choice. They make the same mistakes repeatedly because they never stop to examine why. They're mysteries to themselves. Epictetus taught, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. But you can't choose your response if you're not even aware of your automatic patterns. Self-awareness isn't about navel-gazing or overthinking everything. It's about clearly seeing your own thought patterns, emotional triggers, and habitual reactions so you can interrupt them when they're not serving you. Here's what this actually looks like. Track your patterns. Most guys live on autopilot. Same reactions to the same situations. Same self-sabotaging behaviors. But they never connect the dots because they never actually examine their patterns. Start paying attention. What situations consistently trigger strong emotional reactions? What thoughts automatically arise in those situations? How do you typically respond? What's the usual outcome? I know someone in his early 30s who was constantly getting into conflicts at work. Felt like his coworkers were always disrespecting him or undermining him. He was convinced the problem was them. Then he started journaling about these incidents. After 2 weeks, a clear pattern emerged. Anytime someone questioned his approach or suggested alternatives, he perceived it as an attack on his competence. His automatic reaction was to get defensive and argumentative. Once he saw the pattern clearly, he could interrupt it. He realized most of these attacks were just normal workplace collaboration. The problem wasn't them. It was his hypersensitivity and automatic defensive response. Question your interpretations. Most of your suffering comes not from events themselves, but from your interpretations of those events. Someone cuts you off in traffic. That's just an event, a car changing lanes. But your mind adds, that's disrespectful. They think they're more important than me. People are assholes. Now you're angry for the next 20 minutes. Not because of the event, but because of the story you told yourself about it. Start questioning your automatic interpretations. Is this interpretation definitely true, or is it just one possible explanation? What evidence actually supports this interpretation? Could there be other explanations I'm not considering? Examine your values. Most guys have never consciously defined what they actually value. They're living by default, pursuing goals society told them to pursue, measuring success by metrics they never chose. Take time to actually identify what matters to you. What do I want my life to be about? What kind of person do I want to become? What will matter when I'm looking back at my life? This clarity becomes your compass. When you know your actual values, you can align your choices with them instead of just reacting to whatever comes your way. Self-awareness is the foundation of everything else. You can't master yourself if you don't understand yourself. Lesson 2. Control your mental state. Your mind is probably a disaster. Racing thoughts, constant worry, replaying conversations from 3 years ago, catastrophizing about things that haven't happened. Most guys let their minds run wild, then wonder why they're anxious and unfocused. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Your mind will torture you with scenarios that never happen, regrets about unchangeable past events, and worries about uncontrollable future outcomes if you let it. The Stoic solution: train your mind like you train your body. Here's how. Practice present moment focus. Your mind wants to be anywhere but now. Replaying the past, rehearsing the future, anywhere but the present moment where you actually have power. Bring it back. When you notice yourself ruminating about the past, ask, "Can I change this?" If no, redirect to the present. When you're catastrophizing about the future, ask, "Is this happening right now?" If no, return to what's actually in front of you. Use physical anchors, focus on your breath, notice sensations in your body, pay attention to what you're actually doing right now. I know a lawyer in New York who used to lie awake catastrophizing about upcoming cases. Every possible thing that could go wrong, every scenario where he'd look incompetent, every potential disaster. He started a simple practice. When he noticed himself spiraling, he'd focus on physical sensations. Feel the sheets, notice his breathing, pay attention to actual present moment reality. The catastrophizing didn't stop immediately, but over time, he got better at catching it early and redirecting his attention before it spiraled into full anxiety. Meditate, even if you think you can't. Most guys resist meditation because they think it means sitting in perfect calm with an empty mind. That's not what it is. Meditation is just practicing noticing when your mind wanders and bringing it back. That's it. 5 minutes a day of sitting quietly and practicing this creates noticeable improvement in your ability to focus and manage your mental state. You don't need a special app or technique. Just sit, focus on your breath, notice when your mind wanders, it will constantly, and bring it back. Repeat. Challenge destructive thought patterns. Your mind will lie to you constantly. Everyone thinks I'm incompetent. This always happens to me. I can't handle this. Nothing ever works out. These thoughts feel true. They're not. They're cognitive distortions, patterns of thinking that don't match reality. Start challenging them. Is this actually true or just a feeling? What evidence contradicts this thought? Would I accept this reasoning from someone else, or would I see it as flawed thinking? Controlling your mental state doesn't mean never having negative thoughts. It means not being controlled by them. Lesson 3. Understand and manage your emotions. Most guys have a terrible relationship with their emotions. They either suppress everything until they explode, or they're completely controlled by whatever they're feeling in the moment. Neither works. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Applied to emotions, you can't always control what you feel, but you can control what you do with those feelings. Here's the framework. Name what you're feeling. Most guys experience emotions as vague discomfort or agitation. They're stressed or pissed off or fine, very little nuance. Get more specific. Are you anxious or frustrated, disappointed or angry, lonely or bored? Just naming the specific emotion reduces its intensity and helps you respond appropriately instead of just reacting. Understand what it's telling you. Emotions aren't random. They're data, information about your needs, values, and interpretations. Anger often signals a perceived violation of fairness or respect. Anxiety often signals uncertainty about something you care about. Sadness often signals loss or unmet expectations. When you feel a strong emotion, ask, "What is this telling me?" What need or value is being activated? This doesn't make the emotion disappear, but it gives you information you can act on. Create space between feeling and action. The key to emotional mastery isn't preventing emotions, it's preventing them from automatically controlling your behavior. When you feel a strong emotion, notice it. I'm feeling angry right now. Pause. Take 3 deep breaths before responding. Choose. Given this feeling, what's the most effective response? Most guys go straight from feeling to action with no space in between. That's when you send the angry email, start the unnecessary argument, or make the impulse decision you'll regret. I know someone who was about to quit his job in anger after a frustrating meeting with his boss. He felt disrespected and undervalued. Instead of firing off a resignation email, his first impulse, he forced himself to wait 24 hours. The anger didn't completely disappear, but with some distance, he could see the situation more clearly. He ended up having a direct conversation with his boss about expectations and communication. The situation improved significantly. If he'd acted on the initial emotion, he would have quit a job he actually liked because of one bad meeting. Emotional intelligence isn't about being unemotional. It's about understanding your emotions without being controlled by them. Lesson 4. Build real discipline. Discipline is the difference between the life you want and the life you have. You know what you should do. Work out consistently, eat well, save money, work on your skills, build meaningful relationships, sleep enough. But you don't do it because discipline is hard and Netflix is easy. Epictetus taught, no man is free who is not master of himself. You can't be free if every impulse controls you, every distraction derails you, every discomfort makes you quit. Here's how to actually build discipline. Start absurdly small. Most guys set ambitious goals, feel motivated for 3 days, then quit when willpower runs out. Different approach. Make the initial commitment so small that you can't fail. Want to start working out? Commit to putting on gym clothes every morning. That's it. Not actually working out, just putting on the clothes. Want to start reading? Commit to reading 1 page per day. Want to start meditating? Commit to sitting down for 1 minute. This sounds trivial, but it builds the habit of showing up. Once you're consistently doing the tiny version, you can gradually increase. I know someone who wanted to start running but kept quitting after a few days. He changed his goal, put on running shoes and step outside every morning. Some days he'd just stand there for 30 seconds, then go back inside. But he did it every day. After 2 weeks, he naturally started walking a bit. After a month, he was running regularly, not because he white-knuckled through it, but because he built the showing up habit first. Remove friction. Discipline isn't just about willpower. It's about making good choices easier and bad choices harder. Want to work out in the morning? Put your gym clothes next to your bed the night before. Want to eat healthier? Don't buy junk food so it's not in your house. Want to waste less time on social media? Delete the apps from your phone. Use implementation intentions instead of vague goals. I'll work out more. Create specific if-then plans. If it's 6 a.m. on a weekday, then I go to the gym. If I finish dinner, then I read for 30 minutes. If I feel the urge to check social media, then I do 10 push-ups first. These specific plans remove the decision-making in the moment, which is when discipline usually fails. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about consistently doing the thing even when you don't feel like it. That's the skill that changes everything. Lesson 5. Take care of your physical foundation. Your body directly affects your mind. You can't think clearly, manage emotions effectively, or maintain discipline when you're exhausted, malnourished, and sedentary. Most guys know this intellectually, but ignore it practically. The Stoics understood that physical health was the foundation for mental and emotional health. You can't pursue virtue or wisdom effectively when your body is falling apart. The basics that most guys neglect. Sleep. You're probably chronically sleep deprived. Most guys are. You need 7-8 hours, not 5-6 while telling yourself you're fine. Actual 7-8 hours of quality sleep. When you're sleep deprived, your emotional regulation deteriorates, your cognitive function drops significantly, your impulse control weakens, your stress hormones elevate. You're essentially trying to navigate life on hard mode because you won't prioritize sleep. Movement. You don't need to be a bodybuilder, but you need to move your body regularly, and intensely enough to maintain fitness. Exercise isn't optional if you want optimal mental performance. It reduces anxiety and depression, improves cognitive function, regulates stress hormones, improves sleep quality, builds discipline. Find something you'll actually do consistently. Doesn't matter what it is: lifting, running, sports, martial arts, whatever. Just move. Nutrition: you don't need a perfect diet, but you can't fuel optimal performance with garbage. Basic principles: eat mostly whole foods, get adequate protein, stay hydrated, limit processed junk, excess sugar and alcohol. When your nutrition is dialed in, your energy stabilizes, your mood improves, and your mental clarity increases. I know a software engineer who was constantly exhausted and unfocused. He assumed it was just his demanding job. Then he fixed 3 things: started sleeping 8 hours instead of 6, started working out 3 times per week, and stopped eating fast food for every meal. Same job, same life circumstances, but his energy, focus, and mood dramatically improved within a month. Your body is the foundation everything else builds on. You can't master yourself if your foundation is crumbling. Lesson 6. Commit to continuous learning. The moment you stop learning is the moment you start declining. Markets change. Skills become outdated. What worked 5 years ago doesn't work now. If you're not actively learning and adapting, you're falling behind even if you're currently successful. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This isn't about collecting credentials or impressing people. It's about continuous growth and adaptation. What this actually means: read consistently. Most guys read maybe 1-2 books per year. That's not enough to stay sharp and growing. Commit to reading regularly, even if it's just 20-30 minutes per day. Mix genres: business, philosophy, history, biography, fiction. Each book exposes you to new ideas, different perspectives, and ways of thinking you wouldn't encounter otherwise. Learn from failures. Most guys either ignore their failures or dwell on them unproductively. Different approach: extract the lesson systematically. When something goes wrong, what specifically went wrong? What was within my control? What would I do differently next time? What can I learn from this? Document these lessons. Review them before similar situations. Actually apply what you learned. Seek out different perspectives. It's easy to stay in your bubble. Same people, same ideas, same perspectives reinforcing what you already think. Deliberately expose yourself to different viewpoints. Read authors you disagree with, talk to people in different fields, travel to places unlike where you grew up, challenge your own assumptions regularly. This doesn't mean you have to change your mind about everything, but it prevents you from becoming mentally rigid and convinced you know everything. Continuous learning isn't about accumulating credentials. It's about maintaining mental flexibility and continued growth throughout your life. Lesson 7. Build genuine relationships. You cannot succeed alone, and you shouldn't try. Most guys either neglect relationships entirely, focused only on work and goals, or maintain shallow connections that don't actually support real growth. Neither works. The Stoics understood that humans are social beings. We need genuine connection, not just networks or followers. Here's what real relationships look like. Quality over quantity. You don't need hundreds of friends or thousands of followers. You need a small number of genuine relationships with people who share your values, challenge you to grow, support you during difficulties, celebrate your successes, tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. These relationships require time and energy to maintain, which means you can only have a limited number. Be selective. Invest deeply in a few people rather than shallowly in many. Show up. Relationships require consistent presence and effort. Most guys are terrible at this. They reach out only when they need something, or they let months go by without connecting, or they're physically present but mentally elsewhere. Show up. Respond to messages, make plans, and keep them. Be present during conversations, not scrolling your phone. Check in regularly. Offer support without being asked. Be vulnerable. Most guys maintain a facade with everyone, pretending everything's fine, never admitting struggles, keeping everything surface level. This prevents real connection. Real relationships require some vulnerability, being honest about challenges, admitting when you're struggling, asking for help when you need it. This doesn't mean being an emotional drain. It means being genuine rather than performing constant competence. I know someone who maintained dozens of friendships but felt completely alone. Because none of them were real. They were all surface-level professional connections where everyone performed success. He cut the list down to about 8 people and started being more honest with them about challenges and struggles. Those 8 relationships became infinitely more valuable than the dozens of shallow ones. Strong relationships aren't a luxury. They're essential for navigating life effectively. Lesson 8. Practice self-compassion. Most guys are incredibly harsh with themselves. They'd never talk to a friend the way they talk to themselves in their own head. Every mistake becomes evidence they're a failure. Every setback proves they're not good enough. They hold themselves to impossible standards, then beat themselves up for not meeting them. This doesn't create motivation or improvement. It creates paralysis and self-sabotage. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." You can't master yourself if you're at war with yourself. Self-compassion looks like acknowledge mistakes without catastrophizing when you mess up, and you will acknowledge it clearly without the dramatic narrative. Instead of, "I'm such an idiot, I always screw everything up, I'll never succeed," try, "I made a mistake here, it had consequences. What can I learn from it? How do I move forward?" Same mistake, completely different response. Talk to yourself like a coach, not a critic. Pay attention to your internal dialogue. If you're constantly criticizing and berating yourself, you're creating unnecessary suffering. When you catch negative self-talk, ask, "Would I say this to someone I was trying to help?" If not, reframe it. Instead of, "You're pathetic for struggling with this," try, "This is challenging. What support do you need? What's one small step forward?" Accept that you're human, you will make mistakes. You will have weaknesses, you will fail sometimes. This is universal human experience, not evidence of personal inadequacy. When you accept your own humanity, you can work on improvement without the constant self-flagellation. I know someone who was paralyzed by perfectionism. Every small mistake confirmed his belief that he wasn't good enough. So he avoided challenges where he might fail, which prevented any real growth. He started practicing self-compassion, treating mistakes as normal and expected rather than catastrophic. This actually increased his performance because he was no longer paralyzed by fear of failure. Self-compassion isn't about lowering standards or making excuses. It's about treating yourself with the same understanding you'd extend to others. Lesson 9. Find your purpose. Without purpose, you're just drifting, reacting to whatever comes your way, pursuing goals that don't actually matter to you, wondering why success feels empty. Seneca wrote, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." You need to know what you're aiming for, not just career goals or income targets, but what you actually want your life to be about. How to find this? Identify your values. Most guys have never consciously defined what they value. They're pursuing goals society told them to pursue. Ask yourself, what actually matters to me? What do I want my life to be about? What kind of person do I want to become? What will I care about when looking back on my life? Be honest. Not what you think you should value, what you actually value. Consider your impact. How do you want to contribute? What problems do you want to solve? What do you want to create or improve? Purpose often emerges from the intersection of what you're good at, what you enjoy, what the world needs. Align your actions. Once you identify your purpose, align your daily choices with it. This doesn't mean dramatic overnight change. It means gradually adjusting your life so more of your time and energy goes toward what actually matters to you. I know someone who realized his purpose was helping people build financial literacy. He was in a high-paying finance job that had nothing to do with this purpose. He didn't quit immediately, but over 2 years he gradually shifted, started a side project teaching financial basics, built it up, eventually transitioned to doing it full-time. Same skills, completely different purpose and satisfaction. When you have clarity on purpose, decisions become easier. You have a filter for what deserves your time and what doesn't. Lesson 10. Cultivate gratitude. Most guys focus almost entirely on what's wrong, what's missing, what they don't have yet. This creates constant dissatisfaction regardless of actual circumstances. Seneca taught, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." Gratitude is the practice of acknowledging what's right, what you have, what's working. How to build this? Daily practice every morning or evening. Identify 3 specific things you're grateful for. Not generic, I'm grateful for my family, but specific. I'm grateful my friend checked in on me yesterday. This trains your brain to notice positive aspects of your life instead of only fixating on problems. Appreciate the ordinary. You don't need to wait for major events to practice gratitude. The ordinary aspects of your life that you take for granted, health, clean water, shelter, freedom, relationships, these are remarkable when you actually pause to appreciate them. Express it. Gratitude is most powerful when expressed. Tell people you appreciate them. Specifically acknowledge what they did and why it mattered. This strengthens relationships and reinforces the practice for yourself. I know someone who was constantly stressed and dissatisfied despite objective success. He had a good job, stable relationship, decent health, but only focused on problems and what he hadn't achieved yet. He started a gratitude journal, just 3 things per day. Within a month, his baseline mood shifted noticeably, not because circumstances changed, but because he started noticing what was working instead of only what wasn't. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist. It means maintaining perspective so problems don't consume you. Lesson 11. Practice forgiveness. Holding grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Most guys carry resentment toward people who wronged them, toward themselves for past mistakes, toward circumstances that didn't go their way. This accomplishes nothing except keeping you trapped in the past. Epictetus taught, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Forgiveness is choosing to release the resentment, not for the other person's benefit, but for yours. What this means: let go of what you can't change. The past is done. You can't change what happened. You can only choose whether to continue carrying it. Holding on to resentment doesn't change what happened. It just keeps you suffering about it. Distinguish forgiveness from approval. Forgiving someone doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't require reconciliation or even contact. It just means you're choosing not to let that past event continue poisoning your present. Forgive yourself. Most guys are harder on themselves than anyone else. You need to forgive yourself for past mistakes the same way you'd forgive others. Acknowledge what happened, extract the lesson, and release the resentment. I know someone who held a grudge against a former business partner who screwed him over. Valid reasons to be angry, but carrying that anger for years accomplished nothing. The former partner moved on with his life, completely unaffected. Meanwhile, the resentment was eating away at the guy who'd been wronged. He finally chose to release it, not because the partner deserved forgiveness, but because carrying the grudge was only hurting himself. Forgiveness is freedom. Freedom from being controlled by past events you can't change. Lesson 12. Accept impermanence. Everything ends. Every relationship, every job, every phase of life, every version of yourself. And ultimately, your life itself. This isn't pessimistic, it's liberating. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of mortality and impermanence. Not to be morbid, but to maintain perspective. When you remember that nothing lasts forever, you appreciate what you have while you have it. Stop taking things for granted. Focus on what actually matters. Let go of trivial concerns. How to practice this? Remember mortality. You're going to die. So is everyone you know. This is certain. When you really internalize this, it creates urgency and appreciation. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. Appreciate the present because everything is temporary. The present moment is all you actually have. Enjoy experiences while they're happening. Appreciate people while they're in your life. Don't postpone joy until circumstances are perfect. Hold things lightly. Enjoy what you have without becoming desperately attached to it. Relationships, possessions, achievements. Appreciate them, but recognize they're temporary. This allows you to enjoy them fully without the anxiety of potential loss. I know someone who was devastated when his company downsized and he lost his job. He'd identified completely with that position. It was who he was, not just what he did. After that experience, he learned to hold things more lightly. He could be invested in work without making it his entire identity. When the next job change came, he handled it with much more grace. Accepting impermanence doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you present and appreciative. Lesson 13. Build resilience through adversity. Life will knock you down, repeatedly. That's guaranteed. The question isn't whether you'll face adversity, it's whether you'll let it break you or forge you into something stronger. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles aren't just inconveniences to overcome. They're opportunities to build strength. How to develop this mindset? Reframe challenges. When something difficult happens, your first instinct is probably, "This sucks. Why is this happening to me?" Try instead, "This is hard. What can I learn from it? How can this make me stronger?" Same situation, completely different frame. Focus on what you control in any difficult situation. Separate what you can control from what you can't. You can't control that the situation happened. You can control how you respond, what you learn, and what you do next. Build gradually. You don't build resilience by immediately tackling your biggest fears. You build it gradually through consistent small challenges. Each time you do something difficult and survive it, you prove to yourself that you're capable. This builds confidence for larger challenges. I know someone who got laid off from a job he'd held for 7 years. Devastating at the time. But he reframed it. "This forces me to explore options I would never have considered otherwise." He ended up in a better position with more pay and better culture. The layoff was still difficult, but his response to it, focusing on what he could control, looking for opportunities, taking action, turned it into a catalyst for positive change rather than just a setback. Every challenge is training. Every difficulty is an opportunity to prove you can handle hard things. Closing, we've covered 13 Stoic lessons for mastering yourself. 1. Develop brutal self-awareness. 2. Control your mental state. 3. Understand and manage your emotions. 4. Build real discipline. 5. Take care of your physical foundation. 6. Commit to continuous learning. 7. Build genuine relationships. 8. Practice self-compassion. 9. Find your purpose. 10. Cultivate gratitude. 11. Practice forgiveness. 12. Accept impermanence. 13. Build resilience through adversity. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts. They're practical tools for taking control of your life when circumstances feel out of control. But here's the reality. Knowing these lessons doesn't change anything. Only practicing them does. Self-mastery isn't achieved in one dramatic moment. It's built through thousands of small choices over time. So here's your challenge. Don't try to implement all 13 lessons tomorrow. Pick one. Just one that resonates most strongly with you. Commit to practicing that one lesson deliberately for 30 days. Maybe it's building discipline through small daily actions. Maybe it's developing self-awareness through journaling. Maybe it's practicing gratitude every morning. Choose one and actually do it. After 30 days, come back and tell us which lesson you chose and how it impacted your life. What changed? What was difficult? What surprised you? We're building a community at Strength Within of men who understand that you can't always control your circumstances, but you can always control yourself. And that makes all the difference. If this resonated, hit the like button and subscribe. We're creating content that helps you master yourself in a world that's increasingly chaotic and out of control. The ancient Stoics proved that internal control is possible even when external control isn't. They showed that mastering yourself is the foundation for everything else. You can't control the economy, politics, other people, or most of what happens to you. But you can control your reactions, your choices, your effort, your character, and your response to whatever life throws at you. Master that and nothing can truly defeat you. Let's get to work.